Kia ora, and thank you for joining us for this session where we're discussing a work from the docedge XR exhibition that has just been recently held at the Auckland Civic and Wellington in association with docedge Film Festival. You can also experience the project at the NZ 22 conference. The showcase is free for anyone to attend regardless if they bought the NZ tickets for the first time. So it's open for general public. And it will be from the 18th to the 19th of August at Te Papa in Wellington. So today we're focusing on one of the projects called On This Morning You Wake to the End of the World. It's an immersive VR experience that takes you through facing the possible reality of a nuclear assault in a very sobering way. The description goes, on January 13th, 2018, an alert was issued to 1.4 million of the citizens in Hawaii. A ballistic missile threat inbound to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. And although nothing happened, everything changed as a consequence of this. I'm joined here today by lovely Umayam. She's a writer and a nuclear non-proliferation expert. Lovely, if you could just explain a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. Again, my name is lovely Umayam. I am tuning in from Los Angeles, California. And as Christian said, I am a nuclear non-proliferation expert. I've been doing nuclear research for the past 10 years, specifically in the subject of ensuring that governments around the world don't continue to create nuclear weapons and also actively pursue nuclear disarmament so that we can get rid of nuclear weapons in the world. And I've had the great fortune to travel around the world, get to know different types of people that are touched by nuclear issues, including policymakers, scientists, activists, and those that have lived experience. And so being a part of this film project has great meaning to me because I'm able to, I guess, integrate some of the things that I've learned throughout my research, throughout my career, into the arts.
Great. And so just on that note, you say you've been traveling around the world. How are you feeling about what's currently happening in the world?
Yeah, so I guess the phrase that comes to mind is I'm hanging in there like everyone else. There are a lot of problems in all spheres of life, nationally and globally, personally and professionally. And I think, like most people, it's a struggle to move through the day-to-day with all of it on background. And, you know, from a foreign policy level, obviously there's what's happening in Ukraine, the invasion of Russia, but also here in the United States, there's a lot of political tension as well. And it sort of kind of modulates, and from a personal level, it's really hard to hold it all. But that being said, I continue to be grateful for what I have, and also the opportunity to do what I love, which is this kind of research, creating art, and exploring how we can make the world be a better and safer place.
Yeah, I guess a part of that is, you know, getting people to become aware that we are all affected by nuclear weapons, some form or other. And I guess that's what I found about this project as well. It really sort of brings that back to the forefront, that we are really all in some way or another affected by these weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what your involvement with this project has been?
Sure. So I kind of came in at the tail end of the filmmaking process. So Games for Change, the entity that really catalyzed this film project, had been working with Princeton University community members in Hawaii to tell the story of what happened in January 2018. And when they finished the production process, they reached out to a few folks like myself who are in the nuclear policy field, and basically invited us to watch the film, to try and again integrate what the film is with our policy practice and help educate the greater public about it. So that's how I've become involved.
Great. And was there any parts of the project that surprised you or sort of took you by surprise?
I mean, absolutely. First of all, I think just the imagery of just the use of imagery to portray nuclear issues in a different way. I think we've all become very desensitized to mushroom clouds. It's all over sci-fi. We see Armageddon, TV shows all the time. And so it's something that I kind of expected from a film like this when I watched it, but I was surprised by how humanizing it is, because even though it focuses on the threat of a nuclear attack, and how it affected the lived experience of so many Hawaiians, it also sort of held the emotions together in a way that elicited hope and an agency, which I think is very surprising for a film about nuclear issues.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is something that really stuck with me as well, is that interpersonal and all the stories that really brings you down to the ground with people. That was really, touching, as well as the poetry, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So another question I've got is, how do you feel you accomplish the ability to make the audience comfortable to experience a project, yet uncomfortable to create change around the topics you advocate for?
I mean, it kind of dovetails to what we were just sort of commenting on, right? Like how basically leaning on the arts to be able to create that tension. I think that this film, what it accomplishes is it leaves room for curiosity and exploration. It doesn't shy away from articulating exactly what happened in Hawaii, and how people reacted viscerally, how people hid, and how people cried and went through this existential crisis. So it was very raw and honest in that way. And I think that that's where the discomfort comes and the empathy comes. But at the same time, it allowed for a pathway of, it doesn't have to be this way. We can have a different future. And I think having that space, that comfortable space where audiences can feel held, especially in a VR experience where you feel like you're experiencing it with the characters in the story, but you're not left in a place of desolation and no action. And honestly, I think the VR component to this film really helped make that happen, because it really puts the audience in the shoes of someone who is experiencing this firsthand.
Yeah, and so in that sense, we've got this amazing VR projects, and we see these really, great expressions of these things happen. But then, it's obviously really important to have the impact campaign around it. So how would you talk about how On the Morning You Wake is unfolding as an impact-focused project?
I would describe it, I guess, in two ways. The first is that it brings awareness to the issues, right? Like linking basic facts about nuclear weapons to the lived experience, in honing in on this very specific local event that happened in Hawaii, it also allows for a conversation of, oh, didn't realize that nuclear weapons still exist. In fact, there's about 12,700 nuclear weapons in the world today, most of which is concentrated between the United States and Russia, with a little bit more than 5,000 nuclear weapons respectively. The fact that collectively all nuclear weapon states, there being 9 of them in total, spend at least $72 billion dollars every year to modernize and upkeep, maintain these arsenals. And so again, awareness is key. Not only that what happened in Hawaii is something that could occur because these weapons exist, but also the broader sort of policy basics, right? And then the second piece I would say is activation, actually linking nuclear issues to our understanding of home and security. So it becomes a reorientation of our day-to-day relationship with foreign policy issues. And that's how we become, I think, activated as global citizens. We can't shy away from or be apathetic to these kinds of issues because they actually affect us. Even though it doesn't seem like we have any agency around it, we have to make agency ourselves. And part of that is being activated as people who are invested in these types of issues.
Yeah, like you say, with the classical images of mushroom clouds and stuff, it's really easy to other it or distance to associate yourself to it, whereas it does affect us all. So in that sense, can you talk about collaborating with Games for Change team as an Impact Fellow?
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. One of the things that I've been able to do in my career, and again, I'm very fortunate to do this, is work with artists, activists, other scholars from different disciplines to really understand the intersection of nuclear issues with other pressing issues today. And I think Games for Change in this film gave me that opportunity, right? Like, it's challenging me how to communicate what I know as a nuclear expert in ways that feel fresh and accessible to the larger public. And I would say that within my field, that's a really rare opportunity. We often get sort of siloed in our own sort of scholastic bubble or policy bubble, if you will. And so this, being an Impact Fellow, has been a chance to get out of that and really meet people where they're at.
Amazing. Yeah. So who do you think should see this project?
I mean, the ideal answer is everyone, right? But I would say that in particular, I would say the younger generation, especially those who do not have the memory of the Cold War, who've never witnessed a nuclear detonation in their lifetime. Going back to what you just said, Christian, about mushroom clouds and how it's become a fantasy for so many of us because it's been an iconic image in just pop culture universally, right? I think it would be really important for the younger generation to understand what they're inheriting. And what they're inheriting are real nuclear weapons. They're not just in video games. They're something that's affecting our economy, affecting our politics, our international relations. And I think this is a great entry point to those types of conversations.
Yeah. And I guess giving them avenues to look at how we realistically can change this, that the change is something that is, in our hands or in their hands, really, because they're the new generation. So on what themes in this project sort of resonates with you? What's stuck with you?
I think it goes back to the fact that it's hyper focused on Hawaii and what happened with Hawaii. And that is, I mentioned this earlier, home and security, right? We can talk about nuclear weapons and how they impact the planet, but that there's still something abstract about that. I think what this film accomplishes is it grounds it to real people and real place, and especially a place like Hawaii that has been affected by American imperialism, exploitation. There's a lot of history of militarism in the islands and how it's affected native populations. And so I think it makes you question not only nuclear weapons, right? It also makes you question about the idea of what makes us secure. What does it mean to lose home? And I think, I don't know, there's something really powerful about that. And again, it kind of broadens it such that it's not just about nuclear weapons. It's something that's actually closer to who we are as people.
Yeah, and I guess that identity that you have with your home and your culture and wanting to preserve that as a motivator, I guess. So finally, what's something that everyone should know about the nuclear disarmament movement? What do you want to leave people with as a thought?
So this has been really central in the impact work of On the Morning You Wake, which is, it goes back to the awareness piece, right? And the agency piece, activation piece, like what can we do? And in our conversations with those who've watched the film, what has come up is what's changed in policy today. And one of them is nuclear disarmament. In my field, it has historically been dismissed as sort of this pipe dream that no one's going to get rid of nuclear weapons. But there's a very strong movement of activists, of artists, of indigenous communities that really rallied around what is called the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which is, it literally is a ban on nuclear weapons. And that we can all support this treaty and work together to encourage countries to adopt it. And there's actually ways that cities can also support the treaty. So that's one, I would say, takeaway, that the idea of nuclear disarmament is not just a dream, it's not dead. It's really us as a society that allows it to live on, and having conversations, pressing our governments to take it seriously is what can make it come true. And we're actually seeing very concrete evidence of that with this new treaty at the UN.
Great. I think it's something that can resonate with a lot of New Zealanders as well. We've always been pro banning nuclear power, and I think there's a really strong sense of support for the movement here. So thank you for that, and it's been amazing to chat. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. So please come along to the NZDG conference, 18th and 19th of August, where you can experience On This Morning You Wake to the End of the World. Cool. Thank you, lovely.
No, thank you, Christian.